Hello, everyone. This is going to be just a presentation on uh, dropouts and students who are at risk. So I'm going to show several videos. One will be on communities and schools making a difference. We're going to look at this article. We're also going to look at kind of a good dropout, which is a college-based program that was run through 60 Minutes, which is kind of encouraging people who are kind of bored with school to drop out. But we're going to see all these little aspects of dropout. So let's go from there.
When I was in school, I did struggle with my grades.
I didn't really like school because I was struggling. I didn't feel confident about myself at all.
I felt like I just reached my breaking point. Like, I didn't care no more. Forget school, forget life.
I started working when I was on a young age, scrap milling. My life wasn't focused on school.
Public education is designed to provide all young people at a shot with the American dream. Each year, we see about 1.2 million young people who never graduate and never will, which means they are pipelined to be second-class citizens.
For many of the kids that I serve, the idea of what's normal is very different. What's normal for them is the power going out, moving every 6 months, calling your mom while she's at work and trying to make sure you're not getting her fired.
These children didn't choose to be disadvantaged. They didn't choose to be poor. They didn't choose to not have mentorship. And they didn't choose to not have the basic necessities at home.
Our mission is to go to the poorest performing schools and the poorest kids in America. So it is going to the heart of the dropout problem and attending to the non-academic barriers so we could actually free up young people to be able to learn. In community are extraordinary resources. They're just disconnected from the very young people that need them. When you link those great resources with a kid that's really in need, magic happens. And you see kids just flourish, even in the most dire circumstances, when there's a caring adult providing them the kinds of resources they need to be able to succeed academically.
The communities and school site coordinators are the hub of activity in the school. They connect children with whatever they need.
My job is to empower them, bring the community and the resources that are around to support them. They may have what it takes, but they don't know what steps they need to take in order to get there.
If I not have met Mr. Weeks, I would probably not be in high school. He was the one who provided me for anything I needed help with in school or at home. He gave me hope. He gave me a lot of hope, put me back on track.
That's what our schools need to be doing, is allowing our teachers to teach so that our staff, who are dedicated, giving, generous social workers and counselors, can get to the root of what's going on with that child and fix it.
Communities and Schools has a unique and critical role in helping to improve education in America. For every dollar invested in communities and schools, we return to the community $11.60. There is actually a good economic argument to do the right and just thing.
Communities and Schools knows that the heart of every child wants to succeed. We unlock that voice within the child that says, I can be something bigger and I can be something better because someone believes in me.
You did it. Good job.
I'm getting these kids ready to be successful in life. Our mission is to surround these students with a community of support. I'm here for you and you can do it. You can still succeed. I will help you make it through school.
Well, right now I see a very bright future. And I know that when I fall, I have somebody to catch me.
I'm really excited about my future, that I can read and I can do math. I think I could be anything I want to be if I just put my mind to it.
I'm almost out of high school. I'm figuring to go to college, start my life. My future is very bright. The grass is greener on the other side.
For these kids to understand how learning is such an important gift, the struggles that they go through every day, and yet they can still come to school and they can have a smile on their face, then I know I made a difference.
Okay, so that video introduces us to the phrase communities in schools, which is a dropout prevention program that exists through federal grant money to help several different schools. So this article will now, we're going to look at, talks about to the community in school program. So let's go ahead and look at this article. As we scroll through this article, it's actually a report done by the communities in schools. And you'll see I've highlighted some sections here. And it says, as we scroll down, the overview. And the overview is going to give us a general idea of their findings. And it says that there are many services provided by school staff and other external partners. So they are identifying the fact that there are many other dropout prevention programs within schools. And it says high-risk case managed students, those who failed a course or were chronically absent or suspended in the previous year, did not receive more case managed services than others. Now, this is just their breakdown of their summary of findings. But you're going to see a big element of this is they're talking about case managed students. And we're going to see when we get into this what that means. It says compared with those randomly assigned to the non-case managed group, case managed students reported participating in more in-school support activities in several categories, including academically and behaviorally focused meetings with adults and mentoring. So just so we get an understanding of what we're talking about, this is a community in schools program, which they call it, which is supported by federal grants. It's been going on since the 70s over a large number of school districts, including Houston and areas like that. And what they do is they have a prevention program in place for the school to help students. And then they also have a case managed program to help the very severe, which they call level 2 people who have chronic absenteeism. However, to confirm or deny or decline, to say that this is a really good program, this report right here, which is very long, but I'm just going to show you the first part of it, discusses how or how not this program is working. And you'll see that it kind of is working, but they're kind of doing their best they can. It says it is possible that case management could take more than a year to show an effect. So this report actually only looks at 1 year of data, 2013, I believe, to 2014. And what they conclude is that there's really no significance of what they've been doing for all these years over one group, but it may take multiple years. So I'm going to show you a video, and then we're going to come back to this article, because it's this actual report, actually. And we're going to start at the preface. But I'm going to show you another article. This is just a 3-minute article which shows what they're about. And let's do that at this time.
Bronx Arena High School is one of nearly 300 schools under a New York City program called Innovation Zone, or iZone. Started in 2010, iZone schools use online courses and technology to support personalized learning in the classroom. The curriculum is computerized and customized for each student. Evelyn Revillar has been teaching here for 5 years.
It's more targeted teaching than a traditional classroom. We're grouping them based on what do you need to graduate, what academic holes can I fill that haven't been filled yet. The computer is just a tool.
In the past, Revillar would have taught the entire class at once, moving from one concept to the next. Instead, students here, equipped with laptops, work more independently and at their own pace.
The teachers work one-on-one with you. So it's not like I'm in a big classroom and with a bunch of kids and I don't understand something. We're doing everything on our own, and then if we need extra help, then they help us.
While I go through it, shows me where I am in the course.
An online tracker helps students record their progress throughout the day. Now, Revillar can intercept problems as they happen for each student based on real-time feedback she gets.
The tracker is just for us and the teachers to keep track of our courses. It tells me how many tasks that's in that course and how many tasks I'm supposed to be doing that day.
The technology helps students who did not finish traditional high school. Leslie-Anna Allen quit school in 10th grade and needed extra help in global studies and math. At 18, she's getting a second chance at Bronx Arena.
I hated math and I hated global. And since I came here, I finished my whole math course, algebra, geometry, because I worked at the pace that I wanted to work at, and I had teachers to help me too.
Joseph McFadden was expelled from his previous school. This is his third year at Bronx Arena, and he's on track to graduate in January. He also credits his success to something a computer cannot do.
It's a different experience. Like the teachers, they play the role of a teacher, but they're more of their counselors, their advisors. They watch over you. They help you with your lessons, but at the same time, you can actually help yourself moreover because everything is on the computer. You get what you need, and you're able to get it faster.
Leslie-Anna Allen agrees.
They don't allow you to fail here. So I got accepted, and I started coming, and my grades went up, way up.
She basically tells me she can't force me to do anything. I just want you to look back at yourself and ask yourself, where do you really want to be? Do you really think school is for you? Do you really want to be something? If you do, then take your own actions into your hand and do something with yourself.
All that individual motivation per student takes time, and Principal Ty Zazine, who founded Bronx Arena in 2011, says the technology enables that.
We wanted to use technology to maximize that time and really rely on the human part to do the human work and try and take off some of the sort of administrative responsibilities that we have that a computer could do.
As a result, teachers spend more time giving students individual attention and meeting with small groups for focused lessons. Technology in and of itself is not a panacea for every classroom, but this Bronx school so far is having positive outcomes.
The kids who leave us and go on to college, roughly 80% go to college, and we have an 80%, actually a little over 80% college retention rate, which is, particularly for the Bronx, but even the whole city, we're proud of it.
Leslie-Anna Allen hopes to be part of that success.
My plans after graduation is to potentially work with kids. I want to go to college for early childhood. It makes me feel good because I'm a step closer to graduation.
So that was just a little video on how their case management system works. I do apologize. I was saying article at the end. I said I was going to look at another article. I meant a video. My apology. All right, so now we're looking at the preface here, and this is a part of the report where they were analyzing if they were doing a good job over a one-year period. And this has some very good statements here. School success for young people depends on more than teaching and learning. And then just look at this paragraph as a whole here. Many students require supports that go beyond the classroom. Young people growing up in low-income communities often face social and economic challenges that put obstacles in the way of their progress through school and increase the chances that they will drop out. You're going to see that theme reoccur and reemerge throughout nearly all articles about dropout. And that is the topic of social economic status and students who become at risk. So that's one of the big things is poverty, poverty, poverty. When students are poor, when their students are in single-parent homes who are also poor, and when all these factors build up, they are more likely to be at risk of dropping out. Having an array of providers can result in a fragmented or inconsistent service. So this is kind of a little bit of a dig by the program saying, you know, we need to really have one program, and it doesn't work that way when you only have one, when you have multiples. Communities and schools, an organization with a wide national reach, supports the implementation of a school-based model of integrated student support services. So they're supporting this idea of just one model, forget all these multiple support groups. And they talk about case management and then targeting services. As we scroll through, we're going to have to get through the acknowledgement page, and then let's get to the actual summary. Every day, more than 7,000 students drop out of school. 1/5 of students who enter high school do not graduate within 4 years, so 20% of students will not graduate. And more than 2/5 of Latino and African Americans, boys, drop out. Compared with high school graduates, dropouts are more likely to live in poverty, suffer from poor health, be involved in crime, or be dependent on social services. Many students at risk of dropping out need academic, social, and other supports to make it through high school. But these services are scattered across numerous government agencies and nonprofits. So they once again are repeating the step that we need to have one centralized program. And then here's the background of the schools model that they have, the community of schools, founded in 1977 by children's advocate Bill Milliken. Community of schools now serves more than 1.3 million students and their families. So this clearly is a federal grant program, and they're just trying to build it up, and they're actually wanting one model altogether. And this is where it gets into the bones of the program. And it says that there is a level 1 services, crisis interventions, and then a level 2. You'll also kind of notice that this sounds almost like No Child Left Behind, because when No Child Left Behind came out in 2002, it talked about all schools had to have an intervention program. Well, this is just kind of a feeding off of this program from 1977, as well as many, many other programs. That is because this idea of interventions has always been out there, that when students, now this says that students are at level 1, and it's going to be everybody. Everyone at the school is going to be level 1. Everyone in the school are going to be able to receive some services. There'll be a school counselor there, and there's also be some data managing, watching attendance, teacher feedback, such as that. But when a student is constantly absent and they're also raising some of those red flags on why they may drop out, which the article doesn't really get into that, about what are some of the red flags, which I thought would be kind of interesting if they did. But whenever someone gets that level, that red flag, then they become what's called a level 2, and that's a case managed service. In the case management, site coordinators work with individual students to identify their needs, connect. Sorry, my phone is going off. I'll turn that volume down. My apologies. In classroom management, site coordinators work with individual students to identify their needs, connect them with supports in their school, and community to address those needs, and regularly monitor their progress to ensure that their needs continue to be met. So that's what this purpose of this paper is they're looking at the success of the level 2 and the level 2 only. So as this article continues, which we're going to come back to, let's go ahead and now jump to another video, which is school case management, or communities and schools. And they're going to show you just one school, and it's going to be the School of Houston. So that's a 10-minute clip. We're going to look at Houston.
I really wanted to graduate, but the obstacles were just too great.
If it wasn't for communities and schools, I probably wouldn't be on the path to graduation.
I got a new backpack and new shoes.
It's a helping people organization.
Before communities and schools, I had no direction. I was angry. I was on the streets. If you would have looked at a homeless man and looked at me, you're like, this guy's homeless. Now I'm 24 years old, and I never would have thought that I would live this long.
I was hard. I started to think that I could do anything in the world. I was unstoppable. I wasn't scared of no cops. I wasn't scared of nobody. I was Julio. I was big and bad. That's who I was. I have a voice now. I'm able to go out and I'm able to talk to new people. I never had that.
My life before communities and schools, it was stressful. We couldn't afford to pay the bills, the light bills, the water bills. Ever since I became involved in communities and schools, life is a lot less stressful. I can feel physically the difference. I'm happy.
We are their advocates.
If they need school supplies, we give them school supplies. If they need food, we give them food.
We do whatever it takes to keep kids in school. Communities and Schools is an organization that works in elementary school, middle school, and high school, and even in community colleges. We have offices on campus. It's a warm and safe environment.
We work with children individually. We'll work with them with their parents. We do group counseling. We have someone that coordinates tutors, mentors.
There's just so much out there that can deter a child from learning.
Anger, depression, neglect, abandonment issues. We try to remove as many barriers so they can have self-confidence and to see them graduate from high school and go to college and pursue their education.
My mom was 14 years old when she had me. In that same year, she turned 15 years old. During that time, my dad wasn't really around. I know he was in and out of prison. I was in a deep depression most of my childhood. My dad is the main source of my anger. I started doing the gang life because I felt like doing drugs was the thing to do. I was following his footsteps. And that's something I never wanted to do in my life because my dad was a gang member. My dad was incarcerated. And for me to get told that you're gonna be just like him or you're just gonna end up just like your dad, and that's not something I ever wanted to be. So all those times that people told me you're gonna be just like him, it really hurts because I want to be a better man, and I'm capable of that, and I'm showing him that because I'm not gonna go to jail. I'm not gonna do any of that. I'm gonna be the success story that my family wants.
I was heavily involved into violence. Forget grades, forget anything, because I can't focus on, grades when my shoes are falling apart at the bottom, and I don't really know what, where my next meal is coming from.
I don't think the average Houstonian has any glimmer of the kinds of problems that face children today.
Electrical wiring ripped out of the walls. The back room was completely demolished. My room ended up being the living room. Their room was the kitchen. It was horrible. And I didn't know how to deal with that.
Children need emotional and mental health support. And schools are really challenged to try to meet those needs.
Graduating and going to college seemed like a dream to me. Something other kids did, not me.
There's no way I was going to graduate with 2 babies at 16.
Communities in Schools of Houston is the best dropout prevention program in the city. Actually recognized last year by the Department of Education. We've been rated by numerous organizations over the effectiveness of our program. We keep 98% of at-risk kids in school.
When I think about the value that CIS brings to our district and our students, we spend $1.3 million. That's a heavy investment. And I would not be recommending to my school board or to our community or to the taxpayers at large that we spend that kind of money unless we think we're getting value.
If communities and schools were not on our campuses, we would have a higher dropout rate, our attendance rate would go down, we just would not have the success of students that we have today.
They're hungry, they need clothing, they have an earache, they have a toothache, they have problems at home, and all of these things get in the way of them sitting in a desk and learning. And because CIS is on the campus, it frees up teachers so that they can teach. They have the time to actually teach.
Communities and Schools that was home to me. That was my good morning, that was my good afternoon.
When CIS came into the picture, I really felt, I had someone.
We get help with our family problems.
Communities and Schools has a lot to do with relationships. And that's really the channel and the avenue we use to connect with people.
Meeting Mr. Renee in Communities in School at Milby High School, probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Mr. Renee put me in different depression groups or substance abuse groups. I attended them every time it was offered to me. I was there. Every day I still leave those groups and go straight to the same thing that I was involved in. I was a part of gangs and street life activities, marijuana, bars, coke. A lot of the time it was all three at the same time. At times I know he probably wanted to give up on me, but he didn't. He stayed by my side. Every time I needed to talk, I could talk to him. Every time I felt like I was being abandoned, he was there.
One of the great things that Communities and Schools is doing is providing those support systems, the relationships, the connections, someone to talk to, that so many of these kids coming from deeply impoverished families have a very great difficulty in achieving. There are way too many dropouts. We are in a global economy. Companies can produce goods anywhere, sell them everywhere. Suddenly, education, it was always a nice thing to have, has now become absolutely essential in the global knowledge economy of the 21st century.
My grades, when people, some people go home and take it to mama, and want mama to put it on the refrigerator. I would go to the Communities and Schools office and say, look, I gotta be, and Miss Mims, she told me, she said she was proud of me. When she said that, I felt like I wanted to do and bring home some more B's. But again, not home, to the office, in the CIS office.
They have 4 children graduating. CIS helped them to graduate. As a parent, to have a CIS, it was a lot of help because they helped me with my communication, how to be calm, not to get mad.
I can honestly say that they helped me focus and keep my mind, on, okay, you have to make sure that you get through this so that you can graduate and you won't ever be in this spot again.
In one single day, we could have a student that's experiencing extreme depression, that's having trouble getting through school because they're being bullied. It could be something as extreme as the student's having suicidal ideations.
We talk about things like how to, if somebody tells you that they're cutting themselves, what to do.
I believe so strongly in mental health services in schools that we rearranged some things financially and structurally within our school in order to bring CIS on board.
Research has proven that the closer the intervention, the more effective the intervention. To have the resources, the amazing resources of the city of Houston right there at the schoolhouse.
So many doors has opened up, and I always give credit to CIS, like 95% of the credit to CIS, because the organization has helped me so much.
I'm a believer if you can see it, you can achieve it.
I look forward coming to work every day because I know that I will have the opportunity to make a difference in someone's life.
I learned no matter what your circumstances are, you can get past it and you can become a better and greater person.
That's what I get up for every morning, is to make a difference in kids' lives.
I'm accomplishing something important with my life. Joy. Happiness.
We're doing real good. We have to be so proud of ourselves. We made it.
My heart is filled with joy for my kids.
I'm unstoppable now, but in a positive way, not the negative way that I used to think. This Julio can be the president now. This Julio can do so many different things in my life to make sure that I get to where I'm going. Communities and schools is probably the only reason why I'm going to graduate. When I walk across that stage and I have that diploma, y'all see what I've been doing with my life.
So the video really is kind of a how good the program is and kind of a feel-good video. They don't really get into the whole process. This chart right here does show you what they do. You notice it says context and resources. It's a very large chart, but on the left it says context, resources, CIS staff, school structures, existing services, funding, and data. The CIS staff would be the staff that's hired for the communities in school. The school staff is the group that's already there, obviously, and the existing services is school and community. And then it says activities. Number 1, at-risk students identified for case management. So this would be the level 2 people. Assessment completed to identify specific needs. They then would create a case plan developed to include services prescribed to address student needs. Student receives services that fall into 8 categories: academic behavior, attendance, social life, basic needs, college career, enrichment, and family-related services. The service providers vary from school to school. CIS staff monitor and adjust services based on student needs. And then the next stages are the mediators. Student connection to caring adults, school engagement, attitudes about education, educational self-perception. So this is where they continue to watch it. They mediate, make sure everything's going good. And then the outcomes are, they see what the outcomes are. So you see it's kind of like the RTI, which are in the current schools, the response to interventions, and you kind of also see that they're going from stage to stage to stage. So phase 1, phase 2. I am interested that they say that we need to have just one program altogether, but they also talk about this existing services, which are school and community. It seems like they still need that. Also, you'll notice that a lot of this, when they get to the mediation stage, it talks about getting involved in school, getting involved in community, but some of the community and some of the involvement in the school-based involvement, such as like when you have local mental health institutions, whenever you have also just local boys to men clubs, those are also other agencies as well that are designed. So it seems like they're saying that we want to be the one only school-based program, but they're also a little bit dependent on some other programs as well. As you continue with the article, you'll notice it says, I got past all this element right here, and it says 1-year implementation finding. About 60% of the students in the study schools are eligible for free or reduced price lunch, and nearly 85% are Black or Hispanic students. On average, the high school and middle school students enrollments are more than 1,500 students and 700 students respectively. So you're seeing that a large number, whenever they're dealing with dropout prevention, you're seeing a large number is dealing with socioeconomic status, obviously. The site coordinators in the study schools had an average of more than 5 years of experience in their positions, and many had or were working towards advanced degrees in social worker counseling. So the site managers, the people who are actually dealing with the phase 2 in the case management, it helps for them to have a counseling background, they're saying. Site coordinators primarily turn to administrators, teachers, and other support staff to help identify students in need of case management. So that could be a weakness, that the site managers are not factoring on they're not actually doing the identification, and they're depending on people who are probably not trained on RTIs, so training is going to be a key element to that. So there might be a way that they can do better data management that would encourage this. What service do the student receives? Students in the communities and school case management, the phase 2 students, received an average of 19 service contacts during the year, which amounted to an average of 16.2 total level 2 service hours. And it says that students were enrolled on caseloads for an average of about 30 weeks of the year. So I kind of highlighted that because I thought that was interesting, that 30 weeks of the year. So if you take the summer out, which is 8 weeks, or say let's take 10 weeks out, so that's 20 weeks right there. That would really mean that about 12 weeks into the semester, which is 3 months, August, September, October. So you're kind of getting the idea that a lot of these people are not identified as level 2 until October or November, because they're even saying they're only going to get 30 weeks of the year. So if you do the math, 52-week year, take 10 weeks out for summer, so that's 42. So they're only getting 30 weeks of service. So that means that they're getting identified around 12 weeks into the school, so around 3 months in. That's something I thought was kind of weird, and it only has translated to about 2.5 service contacts monthly. So I got to ask, if they're receiving all this federal grant money and they're dealing with, they're only doing 2.5-hour service contacts monthly, and that's not hours, it's monthly per person, just contacts. I would like to question what they're doing the rest of the time. There definitely needs to be on top of that, I would say. Their conclusions, this is evaluations of communities and schools, and this just gives you another model. But right here it says students generally reported participating in more supported activities. And that's really what they found through all this money that they pushed in. After 1 year of services, after 30 contacts, after 16 hours of phase 2 contacts, they really found that people said that they participated in more supporting activities. But all in all, compared with non-case managed students, case managed students had a slightly higher rate of chronic absenteeism and a similar rate of core course failure. So wait, what? So case managed students in this program, over this large $1 million program, actually had a higher rate of absenteeism than non-case manager people. And so it kind of reversed. There was no significant difference between the groups on other measures of school progress, behavior, academic. Thus, after 1 year, committees in school case management has not yet demonstrated improved outcomes for student related to attendance. That's like, wow, that kind of shocked you, and it kind of makes you grab your head and go, what? So all that money, all the case management just does not work after 1 year. Now, we're also going to, they're working on a second study for this one, so I'm going to try to find that one as well. But this is really damaging to them, that they're spending all this money, they're doing all this work, case management, phase 1 to phase 2, on-site managers, and they're actually seeing a rise in absenteeism compared to non-managers. Quite interesting. I'm going to show you a video now, and this is going to wrap up the lecture. And this is actually good dropout. 60 minutes to a piece on good dropouts. But this is college, not high school. So I'm going to end it with a good video, kind of a positive video on a good note. It's going to talk about how people are being encouraged to drop out of college to go do other things. So dropout's not good, but 60 minutes to the piece, it kind of reversed it. Just very interesting discussion, and I'll continue on later. So just watch this last bit, and that'll be the end of this video.
These are the days in May when young men and women are capped and gowned, their hands clutching diplomas, their ears tuned to some wise person telling them, "You are the future." For many deep in debt with few prospects, that future looks pretty bleak. It's enough to make some believe the siren song of Peter Thiel. He's the billionaire venture capitalist who's been beseeching students to drop out of a university system he says is broken, churning out too many half-educated graduates seeking too few jobs. Thiel puts his money where his mouth is and pays selected students $100,000 each to drop out and focus on ideas that will benefit themselves and the world at large. Waiting for graduation, he says, is an expensive waste of time.
The story will continue in a moment.
We have a bubble in education like we had a bubble in housing in the last decade. Everybody believed you had to have a house and they'd pay whatever it took. Today, everybody believes that we need to go to college and people will pay whatever it takes.
You've described college administrators as the subprime mortgage lenders, in other words, con men. You think
not all of them, but certainly the for-profit schools, the less good colleges are like the subprime lenders, where people are being conned into thinking that this credential is the one thing you need to do better in life, and they're actually not any better off after having gone to college. They typically are worse off because they've amassed all this debt.
You think if the bubble bursts, it's a good thing?
I don't think bubbles bursting are ever good things. I think they are inevitable things.
For Thiel, success seemed inevitable. Child prodigy, chess champion, arrogantly self-confident. He breezed through Stanford undergrad and law schools. With his Midas touch, he took the millions he made as a co-founder of PayPal and turned that into billions as the first investor in Facebook. And you're a billionaire before the age of 40.
I guess that might be correct, yes.
No, it is correct.
Yes. Yes, that is correct.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to present the chairman of the Thiel Foundation, Peter Thiel.
His 20 Under 20 fellowship is Thiel's answer in miniature to what he calls the questionable value of higher education.
I think we're going to have a fascinating afternoon as we listen to some of these incredible visions for the future.
Each year, Thiel will select 20 students and pay them $100,000 apiece to work on their ideas.
I want to make complexity our new paradigm, because only by understanding how our world actually works can we hope to make it better.
These finalists are making their pitches.
The effectiveness is inversely proportional to the time of diagnosis.
The only condition, drop out of school. Your megaphone is saying, don't go to college. Is that what you really mean?
I'm saying that people should think hard about why they're going to college. If your life plan is to be a professor or to be a doctor or some other career where you need a specific credential, you should and probably have to go to college. If your plan is to do something very different, you should think really hard about it.
The educational establishment dismissed the idea as dangerous, nasty, and misguided.
Our thought was this is going to be a very idiosyncratic small program. And the fact that it was controversial was a big surprise to us, but it was because an awful lot of parents are quite worried about the education system. There's a great deal of anxiety beneath the surface.
With only half of recent college graduates in full-time jobs and college debt topping $1 trillion, Thiel believes college has become just another debt-fueled luxury.
I did not realize how screwed up the education system is. We now have $1 trillion in student debt in the U.S. That $1 trillion, if you want to describe it cynically, you can say it's paid for $1 trillion of lies about how good education is.
That's such a sweeping statement. You're suggesting that people graduate as either dunces or ne'er-do-wells. There's been a huge number of people who've contributed extraordinarily to this society in the last 20, 30 years. We live longer lives because of those people.
Yes, we have a society where successful people are encouraged to go to college, but it's a mistake to think that that's what makes people successful.
But What you're saying suggests a concentration on all of the practical things in life. But some of the impractical things in life are the most valuable.
That's not always true. People say that. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they are just impractical things that are of little value. And you have to look at the cost side of the equation. It costs up to $250,000 to go through 4 years of college today. Unfortunately, you have to think about the practical things, and are you actually going to get a job where you can pay off this incredible debt you take on?
He may have a point about the cost. College tuition has quadrupled since 1980. But Thiel says many colleges are unaccountable, bloated institutions where students are learning less than ever before. He says a degree has little more than snob value.
There are all sorts of vocational careers that pay extremely well today. So the average plumber makes as much as the average doctor.
By some calculations, he's absolutely right. And in terms of successful college dropouts, he has his legion of examples.
Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook didn't complete Harvard. Steve Jobs dropped out of Reed College. Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard. When you do something entrepreneurial, the credentials are not what really matters. What matters is having the right idea at the right time, the right place.
But all of the examples you give are people who had a very serious brush with higher education, all of them pretty much in elite schools.
It's not causal. You know, Harvard does a great job at picking the winners, and therefore it should get very little credit for turning people into winners.
Well, the same could be applied to your program.
Yes, but the difference is that my program does not involve charging people $250,000.
Believe it or not, U.S. education is by far the best in the world.
Vivek Wadhwa has debated Thiel on the value of higher education.
If you don't even have a bachelor's degree, if you don't even have basic education, you're beyond hope.
He's a successful entrepreneur and professor who teaches at Duke and Stanford. When he heard about Thiel's plan, he was appalled.
How can we now be sending a message to children that they don't need to go to school?
Did the idea gain any traction?
In Silicon Valley, it spread like a wildfire. I was shocked. What is going on with this country? Why is there such an anti-education sentiment brewing in this country?
But what's wrong with a kid who's got a really bright idea and feels, why should I waste my time and money going to school?
Well, the ideas are a dime a dozen. Everyone has them. What makes you successful is being able to take that idea and turn it into an invention and then turn that into a company. Those skills you only gain through education. You're not born with them. There might be one Mark Zuckerberg out of 1 million entrepreneurs, but there aren't 5 Mark Zuckerbergs.
Thiel's fellowship winners seem confident enough to take their chances.
We're going to pretend that we're at a networking event.
Yet are geeky enough to have to take a short course in tough subjects like handshaking and eye contact.
So hey, I'm Bun. Dan, great to meet you.
They're skills that winners like Jim Danielson will need to get his idea on the road. He won his $100,000 when he electrified a junkyard Porsche with a motor he says is cheaper and more efficient than what Detroit has to offer. Sujay Tile was an 18-year-old junior at Harvard when he won a fellowship with a plan to create cheap biofuels.
I'm developing a device called the Sun Slitter, and what it does is it rotates your solar panel.
Eden Full was at Princeton. She invented a more efficient way to capture solar energy. I'm just curious what your parents made of this decision of yours.
My parents weren't that supportive at first.
Both of my parents never had a chance to go to college, so having a kid graduate from an Ivy League institution would have been kind of a big deal. So they were a little upset at the beginning.
Did you feel that you were being fully challenged when you were at university?
Challenged in the wrong ways. I wasn't challenged in the things that I was interested in, and so I just struggled a lot.
I was a pre-med student at Harvard, so I was challenged, but as Eden said, not in the ways I wanted to be.
Alex Kiselev is not a Harvard man. He was at a community college when he won his fellowship with a plan to manufacture scientific instruments more cheaply.
Looking at how my parents went through debt, it's really debilitating for the first 5 to 10, even maybe 15, 20 years of your life, especially if you don't find a very high-paying job as is always promised.
Close to half of the fellows have started businesses at this point. A number of them have received funding from outside investors. I think that across the board, the sense is that they are progressing a lot more with their lives than had they stayed in college.
Easy for him to say. He has degrees in philosophy and law. There's no question you're a very smart guy. There's no question you're a very successful one. Do you think you could have done this without your educational background?
There may have been something specific at Stanford University, but I think if I had gone to any of a number of other universities, it would have been actually quite bad. If I would have gone to Harvard, I would have been tracked to become an investment banker, and I would never even have considered anything else.
Instead, he chose an even more lucrative career and now lives a predictable, pampered billionaire's life, intensely private, demanding, uncomfortable, almost mimicking his hero, Howard Hughes, the Silicon Valley version of a temperamental prima donna. Publicly, he puts millions into some outlandish projects, like funding labs determined to extend life by centuries, and floating sea colonies, still in the model stage, that would be libertarian utopias where American law would not apply.
I just really wanted to meet you. I'm just a big libertarian. All right, thanks.
His uncompromising belief in low taxes and minimal government has made him a libertarian cult hero. Professor Wadhwa says Thiel's billions have clouded his thinking.
Peter Thiel has made so much money that he's out of touch with the real world. He doesn't meet common people. He doesn't understand their needs. He doesn't understand how important education is for the masses. You can take 24 children and make them successful by giving them on-the-job training. But that's not a lesson for the rest of America. What I worry about is a message that's getting out there to America that it's okay to drop out of school, that you don't have to get college. Absolutely dead wrong.
The current crop of fellows, where do you think they'll be, say, 5, 10 years from now?
The majority of them will fail, and they're going to regret not having completed their education.
Already, one company started a year ago by a 19-year-old Thiel fellow who had raised $1.5 million in outside cash is struggling.
What have you been up to?
But Thiel says it's still early in the process, and getting rich isn't the point. His fellows say they can always return to college if things don't work out.
Of course we're destined to fail. That's what entrepreneurship is. That's what, when you try to do something new, the chances are you're going to fail. The thing is, though, we're starting to fail early, and when we're 21 or 22, whenever all of our friends are graduating college, I think we'll be far more likely to succeed than they will be.
I think it's fair to say you're enjoying the controversy you've started, correct?
I don't enjoy being contrarian. I think...
Yes, you do.
No, I think it's much more important to be right than to be contrarian.
Do some of your fellow entrepreneurs think that you're sometimes a little bit nuts with the kind of things you support?
It doesn't matter to me whether people think it's crazy or not. What matters is whether we're doing something to make the world a better place.
And you really feel that you are?
If you could convince me that I wasn't, then I'd stop.
And perhaps move to one of his utopian offshore nation states, where only big ideas flourish and schools permanently out for everybody.